But I didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. I saw a train coming at me full speed. That was the light that I saw. So without further ado, two paths. I'm calling this tonight two paths. Number one, if you just have that one thing, that anxiety and nervousness and impatience, you age faster purely by your behavior. And most people have no clue about this. They just think community versus isolation. So let's say, for example, you are sad and you're depressed and you're anxious and you're lonely. I mean, there's not a lot of really horrible negative that you can pay your bills and you can eat and you have a nice place to live. But you're just sort of like fearful of, we talked about our genetics and our behavior and our environment. Epigenetics was really sort of the thing that we can alter as we move through life if our behavior and our environment is altered in a way that is better for us in general. Okay, so, simple things like if I eat right and I don't, that's two different behaviors and you're going to have two different outcomes. If you're really nice to people or you aren't, it's going to create a certain amount of chemical reactions inside of your brain and your body that can cause disease and illness and inflammation and problems. So today I'm not going to take too much time, but I just want everybody to think about specifically your behavior. There's a great story of... now, I don't know if this is a made-up story or a real story, but there are 10 people in a bank line, and they have all their cash. Let's say it's the 1950s, and they're in the bank, and they have cash. They don't have checks, but they have, they have their jewelry, and they have their wallets and purses and whatnot. And a couple of bank robbers come in and tell everybody to hit the floor, and they're screaming, and they're yelling, and they're pointing their guns, and they're sticking their guns in your face. And it's incredibly traumatic, and you don't know if the police are on their way or what's happening. The security guard is also down face first, and so they take everybody's money and they take all their jewelry and they take all their worldly possessions that they happen to have while they're standing in line, and they get out. The bank robbers escape, and there you are left on the floor with nothing that you had before. Now it's an interesting tale because one person at one end of the spectrum is traumatized for life. It can be a pretty traumatic experience, right? Gun in your face, everything's taken. You become incredibly paranoid. You don't leave the house anymore. You buy 15,000 locks. You get an alarm system. You're basically scared and paranoid, possibly for you're in therapy, not for a short time, but forever and ever and ever. This event has so traumatized you that you're not the same person that you were prior to the event happening. You are just gone. You are completely not the same person that anybody knew prior to that happening. Another person at the other end of the spectrum, which is maybe hard to believe, and who knows what their history is and who they are and what their character is. For them, they dust themselves off and they check to see everybody who also was on the ground, to see how they are, looking out to help those people, and making sure that everybody, is properly dealt with before they all, whatever, get out of the bank and go home. But that individual ends up going home and tells a story to whoever, people at work, people at family, to say, man, you're not going to believe what happened to me. But everybody got out okay. There was nobody severely injured. We lost some money and some jewelry and a watch in my wallet or whatever it was. And that person, they end up at a holiday party and have an incredible, crazy story that they survived. And they're not impacted really at all. They might buy an extra lock or something, but in general, they kind of look at it as a one-off, and because it never happened to them before in whatever 25, 30, 40 years, and the odds of it happening again in their mind don't really think it's going to be. I mean, maybe they'll take more precaution or whatnot. I mean, you want to be smart about these types of things, but what you have is one event and two very different reactions to that same event. Two different people, two different reactions. And does it have to do with their character? To a certain degree. Does it have to do with their paranoia? To a certain degree. Does it have to do with their history and their culture and past experiences? Of course. That's all part of who you are. But it's not like, based on epigenetics. Anybody that's watching me here now who was never in shape before, and now you are, and you have been for not only a year, but 10 or 15 or 20 years, because I've been doing this for a long time, you are, excuse me, a little bit of that homemade lasagna that Shauna made for me. I rushed to get here, and I'm choking on it a little. It's live. There you go. Who knows where I was? But you have that option. You have that option. You had that option when you did one of my workout programs, and maybe you're in Power Nation now and you're doing that, and this is kind of who you are. And you look back at the person you used to be, and you wonder, oh, I wonder if I had never come across Tony Horton. I wonder if I had never read that book. I wonder if I had never made those friends. I wonder if I have never had those experiences. I wonder if when I finally said yes, as opposed to all the times before when I said no. And, you know, my feeling is that as human beings on this earth, it is our job, regardless of how we started, regardless of our education, regardless of our peers, regardless of our parental behavior, our parents and how they raised us. We still can change on a dime if we're willing to, if we have a brand new experience or meet somebody out there that seems kind and thoughtful and honest and authentic. And maybe that person can kind of guide me into the future a little bit here, because I don't like where I was. And I want to make sure that I can make these changes. You know, for me, I C- student speech impediment, right? Broke until I was 43. No chance in hell. I mean, 43 is kind of a very late time to sort of get your act together. And not that I wasn't doing certain things along the way, but I didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel. I saw a train coming at me full speed. That was the light that I saw. Because I felt like I was doing a few things right, not everything. I mean, I was very inconsistent, right? Consistency is obviously very important when it comes to these kind of changes. And I just thought, okay, I'll give it a shot here, nothing, and then I'll wait, and then I'll give it another shot here, and also no great outcome. And that was one of my issues. And it's funny because consistency is not on my list today, but it certainly could be. All right, so without further ado, I think you guys will see. It's almost like we can predict the future to a certain extent based on how we choose to live our lives. And I wrote 10 down, and there's probably 50, but I wrote down these 10, and these are the 10 that kind of came to mind. And, for example, consistency could have been on that list. If you're consistent and you're not, when it comes to almost everything, how you eat, how you move, how you act, how you talk, you know, your finances, your family. I mean, you know, if you're consistently pretty great, then you're going to have a different outcome. But that's not even on my list. All right, so 2 paths. We're calling this tonight 2 paths. Number 1, selfless versus selfish. Ooh, they sound very much alike, but they have nothing in common. So if you look at a selfless person, all right, a selfless person was that guy in the bank line who just, you know, didn't bolt out of there paranoid, you know, and then went to the Home Depot and bought 1,000 locks and called the alarm company. His first priority was to make sure that everybody in the bank line who was down in their face with a gun to their head was okay. That's the kind of person that is usually giving to various charities. Somebody who is always looking to do good deeds, not only for their, you know, and I've talked about this before, not only to their good friends and family, but to strangers and then maybe people who they're in conflict with. That's a selfless person. Boop, 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 boop. My little light always goes out about every, 5 minutes. And so if you think about who that person is, both male and female, young and old, doesn't matter. Even if they're in shape or not and eating right, if there's just somebody who's what's always on their mind is not only themselves, all right, we'll get to selfish in a second, but they're always thinking of other people and how they can help. You know, there are a lot of people in this world that are the opposite of that. That are so selfish, they're not even cool and kind to their spouses or their kids or their coworkers or anybody. They're always looking out for themselves. And I got to say, you know, I've been on this planet since 1958. There's a trend around the world, and there's a lot going on in this country as well, where people are becoming more selfish than they are selfless. Because selfish is easy. And all they really know is the things that they need to do to be able to make their life better in their mind, whether it's for the money or their friendships or their career or you know, their bank account or their personal pleasure. You know what I mean? If you're somebody at a party and there's a bunch of people there and you drink too much and you're drunk and loud and obnoxious at the party, are you selfless or are you selfish? Pretty easy to figure that out. And then you can think of any dozen of circumstances where, am I selfless right now, or am I selfish? Let's say you make a really good income, and you know, a lot of people might have something to say about this one, and you can do what you want with your money. But you're making a lot of money, and you're aware of a lot of people who are in trouble. Not only your friends, your family, your coworkers, but the strangers. The strangers are the charities that you would be giving some of that money to, because you understand where that money's going. So you can keep all your money, and you can invest all your money, and you can buy a big old fancy car, and you can buy a bunch of jewelry, rings and necklaces and whatever the heck you want to do. And I honestly know people who never, ever, who are well-to-do, who never give a dime. They never loan money to anybody. You know what I mean? I'm just like, I'm not going to loan you money. You're the one that made all the mistakes in your life. Pull your bootstraps up and go get a job kind of people. You know what I mean? Like Scott Fifer's Go campaign. Every time I post, I mean, I don't know. I'm not judging, or am I? I'll post me with my shirt off, flexing in a hallway. And I can never get so many views and so much attention in the world. But whenever I post anything for Scott's Go campaign, it's crickets. Is the algorithm set up so that you don't see that post? You know what I mean? Like, he's helped 50,000 orphans around the world through his campaign. Scott drives a very small little car that he'll drive for the next 15 years until it burns out. All right. He could give himself a salary for a lot more. He lives in a 2-bedroom apartment in Santa Monica, a rent-controlled 2-bedroom apartment in Santa Monica. Now, here's a guy. He's just inherently selfless, period. That's who he is. That's what makes him happy. He understands the importance of that. Giving to others as opposed to giving him a bunch of stuff. You know, it's a material world, according to Madonna. But yeah, it's always nice to have nice things. I like nice things. I have nice things. But I understand the importance of what goes out comes back in. Is that karma? I don't know. All I know is that every time I give something, every time I loan some money to somebody who needs some money, every time, you know, my friend Brian Palatucci's son Leo is trying to go to Japan, and they're baking bread, sourdough bread. It's ridiculous. It's it's fresh. It's out of the oven, and it's as good as anything you buy in any top-notch bakery. And so I bought 5 loaves of bread. Oh, but Tony, there was carbs in it. Yeah, anyway, I hear that sourdough bread's good for you, and I don't have it that much. It's my one vice. Okay, leave me alone. And I make some guacamole, and I put the guacamole on that sourdough bread, and it's gorgeous. And so the deal is, Leo and Brian and his family are trying to raise money so that Leo can go to Japan on this trip. All right, and I'm not going to tell you how much they needs to be raised, and I'm not even going to tell you how much I gave for a loaf of bread. But I paid a lot of money for a loaf of bread. Not because, whatever, because I want this kid who I hardly know, Brian's son, to be able to have that experience in Japan. To me, that feels like the right thing to do, as opposed to, yeah, you know, I could have gotten a loaf of bread still and given Brian maybe a lot less than I did. And he would have been perfectly fine with it. Because he says it's voluntary donation on the bread. And so, you know, and was I like this? No, when I was younger and struggling and broke, I didn't give to charities. I didn't, you know, pay inordinate amounts of money for a loaf of bread. I didn't, you know what I mean? I didn't do those things. But now I'm in that situation where I can. And not everybody looking in can do it. But I know you got $5, and I know you got $10. I know you do. And by giving to a charity that you know where the money's going, I mean, a lot of charities, a lot of it's going to new vans and CEOs' salaries and fancy office spaces. And so it's important to do some research. I give to World Central Kitchen, and I give to Go Campaign. That's the bulk of it. And every once I give to a lot of nature things. I gave to the bees, and I gave to the Sierra Club. I mean, every year I always just do it because, you know, I care about Earth. I care about orphans. And I care about people getting food in war-torn parts of the world. And so a certain amount, and according to my accountant, sometimes too much. But it's weird. Like I said, every time I do it, something positive happens in the opposite direction. Are they correlated in any way? I don't know. It just, is it karma? Is that a real thing? I don't know. But it just feels like the right thing to do. And it's selfless, and it's not selfish. So, if, maybe in 2024, what is the, and I'm not saying anybody that I'm talking to here is terribly selfish, right? You could be a little bit of both, but maybe ask yourself if there's an imbalance between your selfishness and your selflessness. All right. Maybe you need to give more. Maybe experiment. Like, I went out of my way and did a nice thing for a guy by the name of Ben, 25 years ago. And I was the P90X guy because of it. You know what I mean? I said, hey, this guy was in trouble. He was having trouble with his weight, and he didn't like me and I didn't like him. And why should I do him a favor? Why should I go out of my way? Why should I be selfless for him? He's not even nice to me. He wasn't nice to me because I wasn't a very good basketball player, and I would never pass. I dribbled too much. That's probably why he didn't like me. That's very likely. But I went and I did the selfless thing, and then he introduced me to the CEO of Beachbody, and then, here I am. Just saying. Selfish versus selflessness. Okay, next. Number 2. Patience. Apparently, patience is a virtue, and being virtuous is a very good thing. All right, that's another piece of behavior. That's your decision under certain circumstances. Under certain circumstances. Say that 3 times fast. Certain circumstances. Certain circumstances. Certain circumstances. Almost. And this is an important one for moi. All right, me. You can ask my wife, Shauna. I have a tendency, and Dora, who's probably looking in, when things go haywire, when there are left turns and right turns, and I thought I was going this way, and all of a sudden the world gets crazy. My internet has been out for 2 days. And I pulled the router and the modem, and I reboot, and then I did all the thing. I called the customer service and all of that, and nothing. It was just we had a power outage, and it fried the modem or the router. I don't even know one from the other. I just know there's these 2 separate boxes, and they do 2 separate things, and I'm sure you can all explain it to me, but I don't care. That's not on my list of things I care about. Not at all. But they screwed up my Christmas Eve and my Christmas and the day after Christmas. All right, right. I couldn't. I had to walk around the house with the phone nothing worked. Shut down. In the 1980s, I wouldn't have cared because it didn't exist in my life, and I was perfectly happy with it. Now I am dependent on this stuff, and it's the holidays, and I can't get it to work. Was Tony impatient? Oh, yes, I was. And look what happened. The lights just went out. It's crazy. And then, so being impatient. What's the opposite of patient? Impatient. But what happens when you're impatient? You get annoyed, you get anxious, and you get nervous. And when you're annoyed, anxious, and nervous, based on your lack of patience, there's a series of chemical reactions inside your body and your brain. Look what happened. You've been talking about it. I love that I'm live and I'm choking to death. And I should have water here. Fake water. Almost works. When ever seen a newscaster or whatever, they're live on TV and this happens to them and they're working so hard to be able to communicate. I'm trying really hard. Let's cut to a commercial. I can't do that. So back to the inflammation and chemical reaction inside of your body when you're impatient. So that the anxiousness and the nervousness and the aggravation and being annoyed means that your breath is shorter. You don't naturally take deep, long, therapeutic breaths when you're impatient, your breath gets shorter, so that the oxygen that needs to go into your body that eventually ends up in your brain, that helps you sort of calm down and mellow out and be more present, can't happen. All right? And so that's why they always say, hey, take deep breaths. You know, people who are freaking out because of whatever, you know, they got in a car accident, right? And they breathe into a bag. They breathe into a bag so they can, you know, slow their breath down. It's kind of an old school thing that you don't really need to do anymore. You just breathe without the bag, and it's probably more effective because you breathe in the bag and then carbon dioxide goes out and then it goes back in when you really just want the oxygen in, not the carbon dioxide. And so there's a lot of you go down this rabbit hole and you create these stress levels that will age you. It'll age your brain and age your skin, and it'll age your internal organs, and it's something that you just don't want to do. And so that's why people will say, well, count to 10. You know, breathe deeply and count to 10. You're trying to create a new state by having new behavior. And so for me, you know, my friend Vache, his girlfriend, his name is Rika, and she's a spiritual leader. She's quite interesting, quite fascinating lady. And whenever anything falls or breaks or crashes, her behavior is the antithesis of what almost anybody else would do. Like, let's say a jar falls on the ground and it's in like 8 pieces and there's tomato sauce all over the floor. Rika's reaction will be, she's faking it till she makes it. She's faking it until it feels more organic. I don't know if she was able to do this on a dime. I know I certainly could. Like, I can't imagine a big jar of tomato sauce hitting the floor and cracking in pieces right when I was about to pour it on my pasta and being all, you know, all about it. Like, God damn fuck, son of a, you freaking, what is your, that's my reaction. And Rika will go, oh my gosh, well, look at that. Look at that on the floor all over the place. I have so many choices right now. I have so many choices. This is not an ideal thing that has happened to me. Can you imagine trying to do this? I mean, it's impressive. Let me say that. So, all right. So she does a little reverse engineering inside of her head. First of all, she goes down and sort of just looks at it and takes it in. And sees that she's not injured, that the cat's not injured, or dog, or whatever, or there are no kids around stepping in it or whatever. She just sees that it's a thing that has a simple solution to it. The simple solution to it is to put on some gloves. You don't want to cut yourself. Easy. Let's go do that. She'll reach down. She'll get the glass. She'll get the trash can and pick out the pieces. And there's tomato sauce still on there. I'm just using tomato sauce as an example. I don't know if there was an actual jar of tomato sauce actual event. But this is how she would do it. And then she would get, you know, some paper towels, still have the glove on, and get the majority of the little shards of glass and tomatoes and get that in there. And then a wet towel, and then the wet towel to kind of get the very last of it. And then she would tape it off like a police event. And then get out the vacuum and get the remnants or whatever, a wet back or something. And that would be that. And she would do it as if it's kind of a fun, neat little project, as opposed to going bat crazy like maybe I would. Because as a spiritual leader that she is, she understands that the anxiety and nervousness and the frustration that comes with that is not healthy. She knows that's like eating, you know, fried bacon for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for a month. You know, that's how she sees it. She just sees it as something that is not going to help her growth or her happiness or anything. And that level of anxiety and frustration and anger causes your cortisol levels, which, if you know anything about cortisol, it's your fight or flight chemical, and your adrenal glands get fried and your cortisol levels go up, which is what they do that when you lift weights. They do that if you're getting a fender bender. That's just what cortisol is there to do, is to help you to kind of defend off, you know, the bad guys. But it's also very taxing on your system. It causes lots of inflammation, and you don't want it to. There has to be a counterbalance between adrenal fatigue and cortisol levels that are too high. You have to have some sort of breath work or infrared sauna or cold plunge or massage or meditation or breath work, you know what I mean? If you just have that one thing, that anxiety and nervousness and impatience, you age faster purely by your behavior. And most people have no clue about this. They just think, I'm angry for a good reason. It's okay to be angry. My parents got angry under these conditions. My friends and everybody around me. This is a reason to get angry and frustrated and impatient about something, as opposed to breathing. Okay. We're human beings. We're not other mammals and lizards. We have to learn everything. You can't leave a newborn baby out in the field. It's not going to do very well at all. It just can't. So it has to be nurtured. Nature nurtured. And if it's not, then things don't go well. So the rest of us, all of us, regardless of our age and who we are, where we are in our life, we have to continue to educate ourselves and begin to practice some of the traits and the states where we have a different reaction to complicated, difficult situations. And there you go. And there's a little text. You heard that little come through. All right. So number 3, no shock here. Movement versus stagnation. All right. So now there's the obvious Tony Horton kinds of movement, right? There's your pull-ups and your push-ups and your squats and your lunges and your X and your power of 4 and your PowerSync 60 and your yoga and your animal flow and all the types of movements that allow your body to not only improve aesthetically, which satisfies your ego. And we know your ego is an evil little mean son of a gun that's not worth listening to. There's that kind of movement. And if that sustains you and you're selfish, then you're perfect. For you selfish folks who work out, it's all about, and I flex all the time. I'm lifting my shirt all the time. Like, who am I to say, right? But that's not my main goal. My main goal is to be able to get in my backyard and get on the ninja course and go to Italy on the Appian Way with a bike with my wife and ride on that crazy path that goes from one end of Italy to the other. And mine is to go to Jackson Hole for 5 weeks and ski my butt off and go fast and hard as I can. And that's why I do all the other things. Indoor training, outside world. You understand? Indoor training. I indoor train for the outside world so that I can have experiences. I want to have experiences. If you're stagnant and you're not moving and you're not exercising and you're not taking care of yourself physically, well, then there's also the mental and emotional malfunction that happens over time as a result of you moving. You're behind. All right. So there's the health component, right? There's the flexibility component. There's the balance component. There's the power component. There's the strength component. There's the cardiovascular strength component, endurance, I should say. And then there's your confidence that goes up through the roof. And then also, oddly enough, because of the dopamine, the serotonin, the brain drive, neurotropic factor that's inside of your brain as a result of the physical movements, you're a different person in every category possible purely because of the foundation of who we are as human beings. Our people are supposed to move. So that you can live longer, you can feel better now, and you can go do stuff later. Yay! That's why. And, you can move some of the time. A lot of people only move some of the time because they assume that working out 3 days a week or walking 3 days a week is going to be enough. Well, it's going to be enough so that you can walk 3 days a week. But even as you age, think about it, because we are not getting younger. None of us. Keep doing the same thing and over again and expecting a different result is insane. And that would be true if we didn't age. If there was no time. There was no time and no aging, and we were all 21 years old. Then we could just go for walks 3 days a week and we would live forever. But I'm sorry to say that intensity, which is in my book, The Big Picture, The 11 Laws, you've got to turn up the volume. You got to walk faster. You got to walk up hills. You got to start to jog. You got to start to run. And then maybe if you really want to live super large, this is a metaphor, of course, then you sprint. You sprint like you're being chased. And that is true in regards to your balance, in regards to your range of motion, in regards to your strength, in regards to your cardiovascular endurance, in regards to your your curiosity about trying other types of physical movements that are something that you have always ignored and put away, right? So yoga, so many of you still can't wrap your mind around the yoga, still don't get it. Remember that the yoga is the strength, it's the balance, it's the range of motion, and it's also mindfulness practice. All in one, on a mat, in your bare feet. Wow. You would think that everybody who did P90X would skip the rest of it. They'd skip the 11 other things and just do the yoga. Just do the yoga. But the opposite happened. They did all the things, the go, and punch and kick and jump and squat and lunge and lift and push. Because their mind doesn't have a chance to slow down there. But with yoga, because it's really hard for a lot of people who've never done it. And they don't know Baddha Konasana from Shavasana, from Downward Dog to Warrior 3. Ooh, I don't want to learn these things. I want to stay the same and do what hey, I'm already signed up for everything else. Why give me such a hard time? Because the clock will continue to move into the future. And then when you're doing that lunge and you're doing that punch and you're doing that kick, ow, 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 ow. It's because you didn't do the yoga. And you got to take a week off, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Is the injury now chronic? Is it? Because you didn't do the yoga? Time keeps on ticking into the future. And so, my friends, movement over stagnation. The 3-day-a-week thing, we do the same thing over and over and over again. It's called your exercise bipolar disorder. It's no different than paying your bills once in a while. It's no different than eating once in a while. It's no different than just sleeping 3 nights a week as opposed to 7. It just stops working. Things go south. Stuff breaks. Your cortisol levels in your adrenal glands are super fried. Your hunger pangs are all over the place. The chemicals that are inside of your body, they'll tell you how you feel, how you move, how you're going. And if you're not consistent with your movement and 6 days a week, 5 days a week, 7, your 7th day, you're just going for a walk, active recovery, whatever it is, or maybe you're doing some breath work, or just a simple 5-10 minute yoga thing in the morning, whatever it is. All right. We're talking 2 paths. One that just, right, you're falling off the cliff at the end and life is really hard and complicated and you can't figure out why because you didn't learn this stuff and you didn't practice this stuff because Uncle Tony told you to do it. Now, here's a guy that didn't know about any of this stuff and I just went, I'm going to tack that little thing onto my life. And then I kept running into problems here, impatience, another one, and another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. You know what I mean? You want to go out like a superhero because you've had all this time on the earth to begin to adhere to some of these concepts, methods, strategies, right? Delivered by me or whoever happens to be. You just want to be happy, right? You just want to function well, right? You want good health, right? You want to be a normal weight, right? You want to have experiences out in the world that maybe you couldn't have when you were younger, right? Or you don't, all right? I'm going to get into some other stuff. We'll get more into it, all right? Stagnation, even part-time, sporadic stagnation mixed in with some kind of movement, I am sorry to say, is not enough. It is not enough. All right. The more you do, the better you get. All right. Consistency, we're back to that again. It's not on the list, but if you can see what I'm talking about here. There's a lot of people out there, and not too many people who are looking and chatting and hanging out with me. You guys, most of guys and gals, you get the message. All right. You know what's going on. And then again, there are people in your life that are still stuck in the wrong path. They're still selfish. They're still impatient, and they're not exercising at all. And look at them. Just on the first 3, I got 10 here. Look at your friends that are selfish, impatient, and don't exercise. Who are they as people? Are they awesome in every possible way? Are they living large? Are they just a riot?
Do they want to go do stuff like climb and ski and go on runs?
Of course they don't. Their worlds, I don't, what if they're 25 or 30 or 40? They're looking through a buttonhole. That's their life. That's it. All right? That's only the first 3. What if they fixed those 3? Because that ain't you. I know that ain't you. You're selfless. You're like, yeah, how can I help people? What can I do? Let me look out for others. Woohoo. My act is together. I'm feeling pretty good. I got time for that. I make time for that. You know what I mean? Impatient, your struggle's different than mine, and my job is to say, right on, how can I help you? Oh, I dropped an entire case of non-alcoholic beer on the garage floor. Fun project. Yeah, let's get after it. I mean, what if I did that? All right. Community versus isolation, number 4. We are the company we keep. We are, and I know I'm kind of covering some territories, but I'm covering these 10 because I want these 10 to be on your list, if you so desire them to be, for 2024. Now, I got a good friend. I love him to death. He's one of the best people I know. He has a really, really, really tough time. Or she. Is it she or he? I don't want to give it away. They have a very difficult time meeting new people. They just do. And that's just sort of a normal, natural trait for adults. All right? And a lot of times, we stick with what we know. All right? I mean, your siblings and your parents and the people that you knew in high school, or junior high school, elementary school, college, you know what I mean? Some of them still stick around and you're with them and that's it. And then, as we get older, we have a tendency to sort of say, that's it, I'm done. I'm an adult. I don't need to meet new people. Well, if your life is going great and you're happy and the people that you already have in your life, in your circle, allows you to just see things and go places and laugh and share and all the things that a great group of people around you would provide, and you haven't met another new person, and that is who you are with those folks. Well, how many more new people do you need to meet? I mean, it's not like I'm not telling you have to go out and meet new people. But if you feel isolated and lonely and sad and depressed, well, sure, some of that has to do with the circumstances and bad luck and car accidents and losing your job and whatever. But it's the community of people. It's the people that you even haven't met yet. Because let's say, for example, you feel somewhat isolated and a lot of your friends aren't really living large. They're not really going places. They're not really doing things. It's just sort of not to say that they're finger pointers and naysayers and wannabes, even though maybe some of them are, right? Like you got to X-nay on the ick-a. You know what I mean? You just got to just like those folks are just, because this is your life, not their life. So if you are living for people who aren't even very cool or very fun or very happy, well, where does that leave you? I mean, are you the life of the party? Are you going to bring them up? Are you going to help them be more selfless? And are you going to help them with their patience and force exercise down their throats? No, you are not. That ain't happening, man. So then that means you gotta go out and get new people. You got to get new people. Now, I should just put that on a timer so it doesn't do that every time. Community versus isolation. So let's say, for example, you are sad and you're depressed and you're anxious and you're lonely. I mean, there's not a lot of really horrible negative that you can pay your bills and you can eat and you have a nice place to live. But you're just sort of like, you're fearful of going to the rock climbing gym by yourself. You're fearful of going to the local park and looking at a couple of dudes throwing a frisbee and saying, hey, you guys, you mind if I toss it with you? Like, if they said no, well, then they're not good friends, future friends of yours, right? If they say, yeah, dude, come on, right on. Ooh, where do you live? Blah, blah, email, phone call, blah, blah, and then you're best pals for life. You know what I mean? You don't sign up for the bike club in town. You don't go to the local gym and look at the bulletin board and look at the dozens of different things that are asking you to join. And by the way, all these little, you pull a tab, oh, what's the, there's like, check out the climbing club, check out the bodybuilders are on Thursday, like the ski club weekend, come to Jackson Hole with Ted and Tony on the, right? There's so many places where you can find so many people who are looking for other like-minded, active people. 2 words, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. That's 2 words like a bunch of time. You have to do it because your world opens up. I'm lucky. I mean, I did this when I was poor and young and had no money at all. I was just always looking for new pals because I'm a bit gregarious. You know what I mean? And I always knew that the more friends I had, the more opportunities that I had, and the more places I got to go, and the higher the likelihood of my life improving would be. That's what community is. Community is all those things all the time, every time. And if you're not proactive about going out there and doing that and meeting those people and having those experiences, then your life is small. It's just smaller. You know what I mean? And on the holidays, you hang out and you're having some turkey with your family, and that's like, oh, and then, and then the New Year's Eve, you go, and then, right? I mean, if you have those kinds of like other people around experiences 3 or 4 times a year, tell me that's enough, man. I have somebody at my house every day of the week. I have email list upon email list. A Paragon experience. I've had 8 of them here at the house, people from all around the world I've never met in my life, who I consider friends now. Do you have to have a Paragon experience? No, man. Just go to the community to-do board, or whatever it is, you know what I mean? And pull a bunch of numbers off. Now I have an eyelash in my eye. It's completely crazy. It's all happening. Choking, eyelashes, darkness. Darkness, my old friend. All right. So you know who you are. And maybe you're not here right now live with me. But you have to ask yourself, do I need to make some new friendships as an adult or not? It's an easy question. You know how to use those words to ask that question, and you know what the answer is. Instantaneously, you know. And then it requires an action. That requires what's number 3? A movement of some sort. And either you do it or you don't. And if you do, life changes dramatically 9 times out of 10. Or it stays the same, which sucks. Can you dig? All right. Next. And this is a broad category. All right. And so, Jack LaLanne used to say many years ago, you are what you eat. You are what you eat. So this category is called food restraint. See how I worded that? Food restraint. I didn't call it diet. I didn't call it nutrition. I didn't call it, I didn't give it a category like vegan or vegetarian or paleo or pescatarian or flexitarian. I just said food restraint versus gluttony. Now, gluttony is the other end. I mean, I went over to the far reaches of the universe, right? Food restraint and gluttony. Now, and I'm trying to go one versus the other, 2 different paths. Now, I could have said, whole food consumption, whatever. But the reason why I use the 2 words food restraint is everybody here and anybody who sees this down the road should know by now what is new, has tons of nutrition, and it also has lots of healthy vitamins and minerals. Now, if some of you saw that conversation that I had with Michelle Pettis, and, she struggled with her weight her whole life, 700 pounds of fluctuation up and down for I don't know how many years, but a long time. And now she just looks at food and says, is this as nutritious and as vitamin and mineral loaded as possible to help my body function at its very best, to avoid all the illnesses that one would get. We're just eating randomly without any restraint whatsoever. Now, I went to a couple of Christmas parties, right? If you're looking for gluttony, those are the places to go, all right? Look around. Look at yourself. Look what your hand reached down and put in your gob. All right, sometimes, oh, it's the holidays, it's it, time to celebrate. Okay. So you've given yourself a time frame in which you can just eat garbage because it's the holidays. You know, whether it's between August 3rd and August 9th, right? The outcome's the same. Garbagey, 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 after effect, after effect, after effect. All right. I'm on a nuts and berries binge or period because I was eating a lot of gluten-free, organic, low glycemic, high fiber snacks. I mean, you read the label and you go, that's pretty good. They're all in boxes, they're all in bags, they're all in cans, and they're in bottles. So they come in these manufactured packaging. They come in, right? And then like really good-natured companies are making, healthier snacks than what's out there. But see, I pay pretty close attention to, this eyelash, man, this is something. I think I'm going to rub it in further and harder. That'll be, like when I do the photo for this, that'll be the photo I use. Really great. An eyelash just threw me completely off. So, my present plan is like, okay, why am I eating out of so many? I mean, I'm eating a lot of vegan meals. I mean, I'll have my chicken, fish, and elk or whatever once in a while because I'm not a vegan. Okay, everybody relax. I'm a guy who eats a lot of plant-based meals, and once in a while I don't because it's like called food confusion, all right? Mental confusion, food confusion. But when I eat it, it's a whole food. Like when I look at chicken, it's the main ingredient is chicken, and the second ingredient is chicken, and the third is chicken. They're all chicken when you eat the chicken. It's not glucose and garganthum and gargum, and it's not a bunch of all these other things. It's just chicken. Same thing with salmon. You look at salmon, the ingredients are salmon all the way through. Now, when I eat salmon, I only eat the wild salmon because I'm a persnickety fella. All right, I don't know at least I know it's wild. If the restaurant says it's wild and it's not, well, then it's on me. You know what I'm saying? That's why I eat a lot of plant-based foods. And when I go to Jackson Hole, like I've said before, wait a minute. There's elk medallions on the menu. Right? It's because, and the ingredient there is elk that was alive like 8 hours earlier. It feels like every once in a while I'm okay doing that. All right. I don't think being really pious and myopic about the food thing is healthy. A lot of people, they do it. And I've been keto for 10 years. My skin is green, but I'm doing it. You know what I mean? Or whatever it is, whether it's vegan or flexitarian. I'm not picking out the keto thing or anything. I'm just saying. I'll get in trouble. Think about the food. Food restraint, I'll get to the point, is knowing the difference between whole foods, healthy foods, single ingredient foods, figuring out how to make those foods palatable so you'll eat them all the time, as opposed to just everything else that's filled with fat, sugar, salt, and chemicals. Now, if you go to a party, I went to a Christmas party and I had because I didn't want to be rude. This was my thing. This is the way I did it. I ate, there was a lot of appetizers, a lot of processed meats and cheese, and they were beautiful, and they all came from a great place. But for me personally, they were little Roma tomatoes and blueberries and strawberries, and I ate those. There they were. Didn't offend anybody. Just ate that. All right? Did I do that again, and that little thumb came up? Is that going to happen? No, maybe that was you guys. My dog's outside chasing a coyote. I don't know what's happening. Right, so that's what I did. And then there were other things that other people prepared there. And I had small portions. And I broke some of the rules, and that was that. I wasn't gluttonous, though, about it. I was not, gluttony. It's one of the 7 sins, so it's got to be bad. You know what I mean? And so you have a choice in this world because your fitness and your food, the two main F's, have everything to do with who you are and how you feel and where you're going forward. And if you have some food restraint, whatever it is it as disciplined as mine, where right now it's just like plant-based, occasional flesh, very rare, and fruit and nuts. I mean, I've lost 7 pounds since when I was in Jackson Hole, and I've gained back 2. But I feel amazing. I have tons of energy. I've never slept better. I think the cookies and the crackers and the chips and all that even though they're the very best of the best, organic, et cetera, I have no more. Out. And by the way, while I'm sitting there watching TV and I'm feeling hungry, even though I'm not, because I just ate a meal, I'm thinking about my old snacks with hummus or guacamole, all right, endless going through the box. You know what I mean? Yeah, I do. I have to sit there and I go get some water with electrolytes. I have this product called Replenish, and I put the Replenish in a glass of water, and I sip that, and it's cold, it's wonderful. Or I have tea. Or I get the nuts, or I get the berries. You can't believe how many berries I have in the refrigerator right now. I got the blackberries, I got the blueberries, I got the raspberries, and I got the strawberries. And what I do is, when I have that craving, I take them out of the fridge, and I rinse them off, because you're supposed to do that. And then I put them in a bowl, and I put the bowl in the freezer for 10 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes. And they get chillier and chillier and chillier. Not till they're frozen, because it's not the same. And when I eat them, and I don't look down at the bowl, so I don't know what I'm going to get. Oh, that's a blackberry. Oh, that's a raspberry. And I kind of discern between whether it's a blueberry or raspberry. I go, that's not a blackberry. You can tell it's easy. And that's just my thing. That's what I'm doing. And my food discipline is, I used to be a 90-10 guy, 90% super clean, 10% whatever. And I think now I'm like a 98-2 guy, somewhere in there. All right. And then if you're still somebody who's looking in on this and you're still eating whatever, no matter what, if it's in front of you, you eat it because that's what you always did. Man, the second half of your life's going to be a drag. And you'll probably likely, maybe good genetics with bad epigenetics, you might get to your senior years. And if you do, you won't be able to do anything. And you'll be in and out of the doctor all the time, because you'll be consuming more meds than you will be food, because of all the bad food mistakes. And food is hard because it's all day. It's breakfast, lunch, and dinner and stuff in between, if that's kind of the average eating lifestyle. All right. We are what we eat, and we are what we move. And if we make those 2 big changes, then we are completely different parents than, say, maybe our parents who didn't have those disciplines in their life. It's up to you, man. You control this and that. And your legs too. So use them or lose them before your time. All right?